Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode number 73 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia. And the guy on the other screen and in your other ear, if you are listening to this on all of our podcast channels, it is Cam Blake in Hobart Town, Tasmania. Hello, Cam.
Hello. I've just realised that you say that you're in down south Ocean Grove, Australia.
Yeah.
But I'm in Tasmania. So what, I'm not part of Australia anymore?
Everyone knows that. You get left off the maps all the time.
How shitty do they get about
I know, you wear it like a badge of honour down there. Come on.
Oh, do they what? The stories I could tell about Tasmania feeling sorry for themselves. we could fill another 100 episodes, I reckon, on that.
Well, we love everything Tasmanian.
And we love all our Tasmanian listeners and followers. And
I can't wait to get down there next month.
Except the ones that live in Tasmania, we don't like that. Yeah, next month, mate. Your ass is mine.
In a month's time, so to speak. In a month's time, be down there getting sore legs.
Yes,
can't wait.
No, that should be good fun. Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for tuning into the show over the last few weeks. Had some good viewership and listener numbers. If you can do us a massive favor and hit the little like thing below this video if you're watching on YouTube, or leave a comment for us on any of the podcast channels, wherever you find your podcasts. Yes. Jump on, leave a comment. It always helps the show, so we do greatly appreciate it.
You know what I noticed that people don't do on the podcast? The YouTube channel seems to kick ass every week.
Yes.
But the podcast is a little bit hidden as to who's listening and who's paying attention and who actually cares. But I reckon it'd be great if people could leave a review on the podcast. So I think we've got like 5 or 6 reviews. I think 3 of them are ours. But if people,
one of them's definitely mine.
Yeah, one of them's definitely yours. But if we could ask a big favor for anyone listening to this on the podcast, so you don't get to see our face, that's fine. But when you get off, when you finish this episode, at the end, you can rate the show like you do, like a Google rating or whatever. Can you rate our show? It could be 1 or 2. I don't care what it is, whatever you think it's worth. But get on there and rate it. Because that does help us. A 5. They can't see that, the listeners.
Give me a 5.
Yeah, 5 star.
I held up 5 fingers, listeners.
You're doing visual props.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's been a big day. Anyway, yeah, if you can get on there and review, that would be greatly appreciated. We'd love it.
Absolutely. And we did pass a little milestone of over 7,000 downloads of the show via podcast, not YouTube, just podcast alone. So thanks, guys. That's awesome. We're excited for us.
But it's not good enough. We need you to get going and get more. That's what we're really saying.
That's exactly right. Now, I'm going to go backwards tonight because
you're not going to say.
Well, we got some feedback from number one ticket holder, didn't we? They want to know our backgrounds. Like, the feedback we're getting is people want to know where the backgrounds are, rather than having to either scroll all the way through the damn show clickbait style. They just want to see them. So
why don't we tell them what yours is, and then we'll tell them what mine is at the end.
Okay, fine, sounds good. This is where I was over the weekend. Hang on, let me see if I can get this bigger on the screen. So this is a place called Mount Arapiles, which is in Western Victoria. So those of you familiar with the town of Horsham, which is probably the Wimmera's biggest rural town, Horsham. If you go to Horsham and then you head west about 45 kilometres roughly, you get to that awesome little rocky outcrop known as Mount Arapiles. Very, very popular with climbers. So there's a lot of rock climbers go to Arapiles. I think it's got every level of climb that you can possibly do all in one place. So in terms of grades of difficulty or something along those lines. So we went out there and I think it's a wee bit untapped, that area, for landscape photographers. Way off in the distance, you can just see a little mountain range. That is the Northern Grampians right there. So, and this little one here, this is called Mitre Rock. And this is just off the side of Arapiles here. And that's in itself is a cool little spot to hang out and take photos. But so got the drone up right on sunset, because Arapiles lights up like a proverbial Christmas tree. As you can see, that beautiful light on Arapiles there. And, the bonus little lonely road here as well added a bit of fun to it. So highly recommend that part of the world. We had a couple of people comment that are from the area
Right.
when I posted this on our Facebook site. So
never seen it from that angle before, maybe.
yeah, maybe, I'm not sure, but the blink and or you'll miss it town of Mitre is right below where I shot this photo from the drone. Literally like 6 buildings and maybe a population of 8.
Right. They've probably never seen a drone before.
Well, that's right. They may not.
Do you reckon
anyone
from Mitre listens to our podcast or show?
If anyone from Mitre listens to this, I'm going to send them a canvas print of that photo behind me. So if you can prove that you're from Mitre, you'll get a canvas print of that, because that is taken right above your town.
Challenge accepted. I am going to find someone who listens to this.
Limited to 1.
All right. Well, there's only 8 people there, you see.
The first person that can show me that it says on their driver's license that they live in Mitre, I'll be very impressed.
Right.
Now, a little hot tip as well. If you do end up going out to this area, keep going west and you end up in this fantastic little rural town of Goroke, Goroke. Just riddled with fantastic rural landscapes. Farms all over the place, windmills, little lakes here and there, little sort of pockets of trees like you get here, little thicket,
like
little forests. Yeah, little forest here and there. And we found a lake called Lake Rat's Castle. It would have, and we're going to go back to that area and camp there because the bird life was incredible. So this area had a lot of floods. Actually, you wouldn't know it by looking at this photo, but they had a lot of floods only 6 months ago.
Right.
The Wimmera River was in massive flood. Horsham was in a spot of bother, and these areas got a heap of water. So there's a lot of wildlife around now. It's sort of flourishing, bird life, wildlife everywhere. So
is this part of our Murray Mallee workshop?
It is not part of the Murray Mallee workshop, but I'm telling you right now, Mr. Blake, we could very easily run a workshop in these areas as well. So,
we need to get the other one running first.
That's right.
Let's get one out the way first.
Exactly. Let's tick that. Yeah, that's right. That's going to be our first multi-day workshop together. So,
here's a fun fact for you. Mount Arapiles was first ascended on the 23rd of July, 1836, by European explorer Major Thomas Mitchell.
There you go.
And it's named Arapiles Hill after the Salamanca Hills in Spain, or hills near Salamanca in Spain. So where the Battle of Salamanca took place.
Major Thomas Mitchell, responsible for 2 other famous things that I can think of straight off the top of my head. The Major Mitchell Cockatoo was named after him.
And the Mitchell River.
Possibly, but he also named Swan Hill.
There you go. Popular guy in that region.
Well, he knew it like the one side of his hand. Well, he probably didn't, because he would have been his first time down there. Anyway, what's this got to do with photography? Absolutely
nothing, as always.
So I thought one of our...
Should we talk about golf now?
That's right. That's what we normally do. Yeah. Footy's about to kick off. We could talk about that again.
No.
Here we go
again. The listenership just went...
There it goes again. That's right. No football talk this season unless the Demons do something extraordinary again. We want to talk tonight about making the most of any lighting conditions. So... we want to give a few tips and tricks for taking photos when you just can't make it back to that location for better light. Now, this happens quite often when you're when you're heading to when you're in transit and you're going to another location, like us, for example. When we went up to camp here at Arapiles, on the way up, we went past places like Dunkeld in the Southern Grampians, where it's got I think it's called is it Mount Abrupt? I think it's called.
Right. Yeah.
It's absolutely stunning. But of course, we were there middle of the day, and it was actually a bit overcast, and the conditions were. And then we came up and went past places like Rocklands Reservoir and all these awesome places to take photos, all with the backdrop of the Grampians behind. And of course, I'm driving the whole time, just going, "Oh man, I just want to get out there,
pull over here, photos. Pull over there." Yeah,
exactly. But we did stop along the way. For example, we stopped in Dunkeld for lunch, and it was just a matter of me looking, going, right, I'm going to be here for 20, 25 minutes tops.
Yeah.
What am I going to shoot here? And this happens quite a lot when you aren't in a location with prime lighting conditions, and you just simply can't get back to these locations. So
it is something that crosses, and this is actually quite relevant to where we're going next month as well, because a lot of people who do the overland track only do it once.
Yes.
And our good friend, I'll tell you a little story. I'm going to get crucified for it. I've just taken over the show, sorry. But a little story about our good friend Chelsea, who we haven't given a shout out for months. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
She's been to Japan with her husband Isaac. They've come back and they went to Mario Land. They were wrapped. They had a great time. But talking about places where the lighting conditions aren't great for it, or whatever you might come across, you don't get that chance to go back. We did the overland track a couple of years ago with Chelsea, and there's a famous quote that she will not take ownership of, but she did say it, and we have witnesses. But we walked up the first day of the overland track, and it was crazy weather, sideways rain, sleet, 100k gust, pack covers flying off, and we couldn't see anything. And it was getting to the point where it's not risky, but it was getting a bit touch and go as we walked along. And Chelsea turned to me and said, "What is the point of doing all this if I can't see anything?" And I said, "But it's the whole experience, it's character building and stuff like that." But you're right, it does happen. You go to a location sometimes, and then Chelsea just unsubscribed. You go to a location and you want to, okay, I've only got 10 minutes here to stop for lunch, and the weather's or the light's really harsh or not good enough, and you can see all these amazing potential shots, but you can't do anything. So I gather what you're talking about with this discussion we're going to have is, what do you do in that situation? Do you just throw your toys out of the cot and not care and, have a hissy fit, or do you actually get your camera out and keep doing it? So what do you do in those situations? Do you throw your toys out of the cot, or do you get into it?
I get frustrated really quickly because it's just, oh man, I see that photo. 9 times out of 10, what I'll do is take it anyway. And the reason for that is because it helps for next time. So you can log compositions that you've made.
Yes.
And sometimes you really are time poor and you can only just get the camera out and try and get a photo. I find those kind of challenges, though, or when you're trying to work quickly under challenging lighting conditions, incredibly helpful for the old memory bank, because
yes,
it keeps you sharp. When we're at Dunkeld, there's just it's so cool. It's dominated by this mountain that just juts out, in the distance, overlooking the town, and it's like, oh, how am I going to catch? Now, the shot straight away for me was, I want to be in the middle of that main street, and I want to be looking straight down it with this big mountain overhanging.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, I couldn't do that. It was the Friday of a long weekend here in Victoria. There was traffic just everywhere. So I put the big camera away. I got out the iPhone, and as we were just walking down the street to go to the local cafe, I just started photographing the buildings, making the most of what I had right in front of me. Like when you take a photo of old buildings, for example, sometimes the light doesn't necessarily have to be that great like it does for landscape.
That's right.
But what I found was, it just primed me for the weekend. It got me thinking photography again.
Yeah.
And if I do say so myself, I was quite proud of the selection of photos I got over the weekend. And I think it was because I started thinking like a photographer straight off the bat. Yeah. And that was, righto, like I said, I'm not going to go back to Dunkeld at sunset. It's 200 kilometers away by the time we got to our camp spot. So it was just a matter of still looking for the compositions and maybe not even taking the photos, but still having a camera out at all times and just keeping that skill level high, I think.
And I think you're right there with that as well, is that, like, it's all about practice. And that's something I get asked a lot as well. It's like, people sort of want to learn that, okay, how do I get that great shot straight away? Or how did you get that great shot at Cradle Mountain straight away? Well, it wasn't my first trip. It wasn't the second trip. It was like the 50th trip there. And I got lucky with the light or lucky with the conditions. So, but you're exactly right. Like, I do the same thing. If I go somewhere and I'm like, it's not really working, this place or the town, but I'll still take some photos as reco, almost like, okay, cool. This is how I would take this building. If the light was great, this is how I take it. And, away we go. A great example of that, there's this little church in this paddock, a little bit like the paddock behind me in my shot, which I'll explain later. In between Hobart and Launceston on the highway that I do a fair bit. And it's this beautiful little church, like a graveyard in the foreground, beautiful little view in the back. And I reckon I've passed this church, I'm kidding you, like a couple hundred times, easy. And I'm still yet to get the lighting conditions I want for that one shot. I've stopped and take shots. I'm like, no, doesn't work. I need some cool stormy clouds or something like that. But every time I go past it and I stop, I still look at different compositions that I know will work. So when I happen to get that really perfect light when I'm driving past there one day, I can get out of the car and I know exactly what shot I'm taking. So I think it's really good advice that don't, like I said, don't throw the toys out of the cot if the light's not really working. Still practice, compositions and, and angles and exposure times and things like that. So
yeah, I'll tell you something. A little anecdote as well. So when we were camping up there, we had a little campfire. It was great. We sat there and we'd get the fire going at sort of 4:30 in the afternoon because we're probably going to cook on the fire, so we'd get coals and all that sort of stuff. And I'd be sitting there downtime, literally, like we're not prepping food or anything, and the sunset isn't happening yet, so it was literally downtime. So I just got out my camera and I put on the big zoom lens, the 100 to 400 zoom,
the new one.
Yes, and literally just started looking through it and zooming in on different areas around me. And what I found that did was really isolate things, things at a distance were really isolated with that lens.
Yeah.
And what you were doing then is all of a sudden I started seeing things, and it was like, okay, actually, even though it's just a hunk of dead grass or dry grass like you've got behind you in your photo there.
Yeah.
Zooming in on individual heads of those grasses and looking at how the light plays off it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Really sort of whets the appetite for when the show comes, and that's when the light comes. And it sort of lent itself a lot to that practice makes perfect mantra that we bang on about on the Down South Photo Show endlessly.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I'm sat there and I'm looking through my camera, I'm zooming in and zooming, I'm looking, and my wife was next to me. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, have a look at this." And I showed her a photo. She went, "Where's that?" And so, from where she was sitting, she couldn't see what I could see just by putting a big zoom lens on, isolating the landscape within a landscape, and getting shots that people wouldn't think to take. And I think that's what differentiates good photographers from great photographers, are the ones that have the ability to look into a scene and see something that nobody else can see, or nobody else thought of looking for, more importantly.
I recommend to people, and we have a lot of great listeners, and I'm sure there's some really great photographers amongst those listeners. And I would really encourage anyone that's into their landscape photography, do yourself, depending where you live, you can there's always a happy spot that people go to in their local sort of region. Go out to your happy spot, go out there at the right time of day. So, early morning or late afternoon, but take a zoom lens only, take a long lens only, and leave everything back at home. And sometimes it's that FOMO where you don't want to leave the wide angle home just in case something happens. But I've done this a few times where I'm like, I'm just going out with a 300mm lens and that's it. And the light will be going off. There'll be everything happening that you want to happen. You're like, crap, I've only got this 300mm lens. I've got to make it work. And that is where you really train your eye, that, you can rock up to any scene then. After you practice doing that, you can rock up to any scene and go, beautiful wide angle. Oh, there's a great little shot there. There's a great little bit there. Like the shot of you've got behind you, that top left corner where that little extra bit of mountain that's coming out up there. You can isolate that color and that thing and that little bit of road there. There's one shot. You could isolate the mountain only. There's another shot. You could isolate another shot with a dam. Like there's shots all in that shot.
Yeah.
And I think
it's funny you should say that, because I did exactly that with Mitre Rock. I've got a shot of it isolated. We were there 3 nights. We flew this photo because this lit up the best. This was the 3rd night,
right?
And I'll tell you a quick story. The first night we were camped not with this view because we had Mount Arapiles a little bit obscured from where we were. But if we walked literally 200 meters out of camp, you could see Mount Arapiles. And this was the first night, and I thought, oh well, I'll take my camera. Clearly, I'll need my zoom because we were a good, probably 12, 13 kilometers away from Mount Arapiles. So I took my big zoom, and I'm there, looking at it and watching this, looking out for the sunset, and then looking back at the mountain and going, this thing's going to glow. It has to. Like it's facing west. It's going to glow. And so I put my big camera down, grabbed my phone, just literally to check what time sunset was. Looked at my phone, looked up at the mountain. It was glowing.
Yeah.
Like it happened that quickly. Like within seconds, it was glowing red.
Yeah.
Crap. Chuck the phone back in pocket, pick up the big camera. It's finished.
Yep.
It lasted 6 seconds. It glowed red for literally 6 seconds, and it was over.
Yeah.
And it was just that tiny little window of opportunity. So that's why I knew 2 nights later when I did this drone shot that light there, that literally is, you can see there's no sun on these paddocks in the foreground. It's only lighting up what's elevated.
Skimming straight across.
And literally, I took that photo. That was it. Light was done.
And
So the point I'm trying to make there is third night I got this photo, not first attempt. That's so rare when you'll go to a location and, like you say, your first shot of Cradle Mountain. I've got a photo of Cradle Mountain I can show you on my first visit there. It's bloody terrible. But it's mine, and I got it.
It was on a Nikon, wasn't
it? Jeepers, I can't remember.
Probably
it was in 2001, and it was probably my Nikon D80, and I also had my Fuji 602Z at that point as well. Right. So I wish it would have been film. It was definitely film. I'm going to find that, and I'm going to put it up on the screen one day.
Not this.
It's buried somewhere in this office.
But I think you're right in like those fleeting moments, and that's another great tip is, if you're going out to shoot landscapes, we've said it a million times, and if you haven't got the hint already, then you should. But don't rock up at 2 minutes to the sunset and expect to get shots that Brendan's got behind him. Like, you've got to be there and be prepared. And it's one of the easiest ways to improve your landscape photography is just don't be lazy. The amount of if I had my time again, I wouldn't be a landscape photographer because I hate getting up early. Like, it's it's a great time of day, but it's such a crap time of day too.
Oh yeah.
And if you want to get
hard
somewhere,
to get going some days, isn't it?
Yeah. But some of the best photos I've taken have been early morning sunrises where I've been on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to get to where I wanted to get the shot. And it pays rewards in the end. So
it's such a bummer, isn't it, that you've got to work hard for things?
It is. It's like, I think I'd rather go work in, my old job where I was.
No, you wouldn't.
No. But you're right. Any lighting conditions you can make most out of. But I guess one thing I've been doing as well, I've been doing is like all these workshops I've been doing and trips around. Like, we've been visiting some of these old Midlands towns, like Oatlands and Ross and Campbelltown and Richmond, all these really cool old towns here in Tassie. And a lot of customers are like, "Oh, this is beautiful, beautiful buildings, beautiful paddocks and all that kind of stuff." I've been really taken by all the old doors in all these old towns, and I'm doing a series of shots on all these old doors and windows. And a lot of the times, I think what drew my eye to these doors and windows was that the lighting wasn't great for what I really wanted to do, but I'm like, hey, these are cool, and they tell a story. They got a lot of character and stuff like that. So I think you can make the most of any lighting condition. You just got to maybe think outside the box a bit and practice. Like, if don't get out and go, oh, it's not the light I wanted. There's always a shot out there. Whether
this is a very, very good point. This is a very good point, and that is, if you've made the effort to get out to these locations, okay, you've been struck with an overcast day. Yep. Well, why would you just go home?
Suck it up, princess.
Get out there and challenge yourself. Now, that anyone can take photos in great light. Not everyone can take great photos in poor light. So, and by honing that skill, it'll deliver dividends at the other end of the scale when the light is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll really know what you should and shouldn't be shooting. Now, to that end, let's extend that a wee bit more, and that is what kind of gear you carry. So we've banged on ad nauseum about how we love zoom photography and landscape these days, which I think is a relatively recent genre in landscape photography. I mean, is it landscape photography or is it subject photography within a landscape?
It's got to be landscape.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, is there a set definition to landscape photography? Like, is it because you're outdoors amongst a landscape, you are then taking landscape photos? I mean, I took some photos of just individual trees you might have seen, from the top of the mountain. I was just looking down on the fields and just individual trees, and they're awesome to photograph. Like, they're just these little, they're just little standalone, icons in the paddock. And you take these photos and it's like, man, is that a landscape or is that a, anyway, whatever.
Well,
I digress.
Yeah, I think it would. I'm worried about giving another genre another name.
Yeah, this
we've got so many bloody genres of photography.
Yeah, exactly.
But
point being,
you could call it Instagram landscape.
Well, that's right,
because that seems to be the trend.
I went on this trip with only two lenses, the 8-25 and the 100-400, and there was at least 3 occasions where I yearned for something between 25 and 100. I had a gap, and that was a shortcoming on my behalf, because I actually do have a couple of other Olympus lenses kicking around that would have filled that gap, but I just neglected to put them in my bag.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hamstrung and had to shoot with either ultra wide or big zoom. What I would have dearly loved was a macro lens in my kit. Mainly because all around were tiny little flowers or spider webs or and I reckon a macro lens can keep you busy for days, even if you've got really bad lighting. And macro lenses, they can be expensive, but they don't have to be. You can find them.
I'll put something on the screen for those watching at home about macro.
Yeah, nice.
And I took this the other day in the garden. I was doing some gardening, and little praying mantis.
So Cam's just put up a photo of a praying mantis with hang on, let me go full screen.
Beady eyes, and sorry for guys listening, you're not going to see this, but think of an alien looking praying mantis staring straight at the camera. But he was actually licking all the cobwebs off his feet and stuff. But I got the macro lens out, and I'm like, this could be anywhere. You could say this is in some forest somewhere or some field somewhere in the middle of nowhere. It's not. It's just out the front. It's literally 5 meters from my front door. So macro lenses are fun.
Yeah, they are absolutely brilliant and very, very handy when you are trying to make. And then you've got it. Now we've got 3 of us on the screen, trying to make the most of any lighting conditions at any location.
Yeah,
is having the ability to switch genres really quickly and keep taking photos, because that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Is not putting your camera away, chucking the macro on, chucking the big zoom on, even in some cases shooting ultra wide, but looking for something a wee bit different.
Yeah, that's right. I think I think there's a lot of good things to take out of that topic in regards to, like you said, just honing your skills, getting used to shooting different conditions, different subjects, different focal lengths. You're there with a camera, you might as well use it and try and do something with it.
That's exactly right. Before we move on, let's tell everyone about your background.
Oh, my background. Okay, so
your actual background, not a praying mantis anymore. That's now gone.
Everyone listening at home is like, for Christ's sake, just leave one background up.
Right.
So this is a shot I took the other day on the way. The big day we had the big aurora, the last aurora. My friend Jamie and I headed out, and that's me. And we headed out up to the Midland, after the lakes in the middle of Tassie, thinking we get it there. Anyway, this road was on the way, and we just came around this corner. It's this big sweeping sort of road view with a vanishing line of the road all the way into the hills. It's got a whole heap of hay barrels sitting on the side of the paddock fence, but it just had some beautiful color, and the contrast of the black road against the yellow fields I just really liked. So we stopped there, took a couple of shots, and the light just kept getting better and better. And it's funny, like, it was one of those moments where we're actually out to shoot the aurora, so we're trying to make time to get to where we planned to go in time for the dark. But we stopped a few times because the light was you just couldn't resist taking a shot. We're like, so it was almost the opposite. Like we're trying to get somewhere else, but the light just kept stopping us along the way. So in the end, it actually worked in our favor, because we didn't get as far into where we wanted to get at dark time, but then we did a detour and actually ended up somewhere where it was a lot better. So it was meant to be.
Those kind of shots behind you are my cup of tea all the way. And I think it's probably because of where I've just been, into a very rural area. I think the other thing I loved about where we went was the lack of people. Look, I work in retail in a busy little town, so I deal a lot with people. So, I've got wonderful customers. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy what I do, but sometimes
that's not what you tell me.
What I say off air, but sometimes it gets a bit much, and you just sort of want to, get away. And it was really cool, this area here, like down that road that you can see over my shoulder. Like, you'd be lucky if a car comes along there every 20 minutes or even longer, And I really sort of like that. So that's why I think that kind of landscape behind you really appeals. That road, man, that's cool. You've got a good vantage point there to you've shot that with your wide. I mean, that lends itself to putting a zoom on as well. The road over your shoulder there, vanishing down to that clump of trees with the light just kissing the edge of those trees. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a good shot there too.
There. I think I did do one of that as well.
Yeah.
The thing that really gets me about this little shot of mine is, like, you get the detail on the road, like all the gravel, like all the asphalt. You can really see the detail. The light's catching like the top of the road as well. So
that's right, because the sun's quite low, so you're getting all the shadow lines and the contrast. That's very, very cool. So, I like it. Our second topic for tonight was we want to talk just
2 topics in one night. Wow.
This may not even make the thumbnail, but we want to just briefly touch on the topic of camera clubs. And well, you put it on the agenda, so so we're starting with Cam on this one. Camera club, should you join one, Cameron?
Well, the reason I bring this up is I'm a member. I'm not a member. Sorry, I'm not a member, but they've made me a Patreon, which is a lovely thing, of the Southern Tasmanian Photography Club. So it's a group of photographers, obviously based in Hobart here, and they gave me the honor, being like an honorary sort of member type of thing. So I thought they had a general meeting the other night, and I thought, I'm going to go along and say good day and catch up. And I know a few of them and see how they're going. They had like a bit of photo critiquing and lots of chit chat about some lady had been to New Zealand for a trip, and they just, as a group, they'd gone up to sort of these rural areas. They had a country show with all the horses and stuff like that. They did all like a bit of an excursion up there, and it got me thinking that I walked out of this meeting afterwards and I'm like, that's really lovely to see groups of people getting together with camera clubs. But I feel that the idea of some camera clubs has a bad rap as well. I sort of hear both sides of things where I come from. So you hear people saying, I love the camera club I'm in. Everyone gets on well and we all have a great time and people do good photos and that's it. Then the other time you hear, I hate camera clubs. Like, Bob, who runs the thing, all he does is win all the photo competitions, and Joan ruins all the all the outings because she doesn't do this. Or there's a lot of nit-nacky between some clubs. So, is it worth joining, or should you join one? And I'd be interested to see if people in the comments actually could say, yes, I am a part of a camera club or a photography club in their area. But is it something that people should join? And I reckon that people should. I think it's a good way to, like I said, keep practicing. But it gives you a purpose to go out and do shoots and meet people and go to different locations. So I'm saying, yes, I think people should join one. And there is hundreds around Australia. Like
there is
everywhere you go, every town, every region will have a camera club of some sort. And if you're going with the right reasons in regards to socializing, going out on excursions, learning what you can, or providing help to others, and then they have competitions and stuff like that, I think they're a great way to do it. But if you're going in there to try and outdo everyone, or I think it's one of those ones where you got to check the ego at the back door or the front door. Don't rock up and think you're going to be the best person there, because I think that's a disaster. And I've heard both sides of that. But and I do a fair few talks at camera clubs around Tassie and some on the mainland as well, and they're always very welcoming. They've always got a great group of people. I find camera clubs are generally maybe the older demographic. So, maybe I'm not saying super old, but, like the 40, 50 onwards, you don't see too many young people at some of these camera clubs because, they're all online and too cool for school. But I think they're a good thing. So have a look in your local region. I know you've probably been part of a camera club or spoken at camera clubs, or
we have
or both.
3 camera clubs here on the Bellarine Peninsula. Well, technically Geelong. So we have the Geelong Camera Club, we have the Bellarine Camera Club, and we have the St Leonard's Camera Club.
Right.
All 3 at some point I have either spoken at, judged their monthly competition, sponsored different things. I sponsor the Bellarine Camera Club and do a few like gift voucher giveaways for prizes and stuff like that. So I'll be perfectly honest and say that I don't do enough with the local camera clubs, and that's got a bit to do with time poor and all that sort of stuff. Where I really rate camera clubs quite highly is from a social standpoint. People make a lot of friends in these camera clubs because everyone's got the like-minded interests, right? They're all photographers. They're all keen to get out there and take photos. So you find when people have got shared interests, you generally end up becoming friends and going on a lot of outings together, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think from will it improve your photography standpoint? The answer is 100% yes, it will. But they're a very good resource. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find someone who's shooting with the same gear as you. So when it comes to, like, you can share lenses, for example, when you go on an outing, that sort of stuff is cool. But more importantly, you share your knowledge base. And there's a lot to be said for verbal sharing of information, getting together and talking.
You mean the old school way?
Yeah, before podcasts, rather than looking it up on YouTube and that sort of stuff, you actually talk to the person. That's a fantastic photo. how did you go about taking that photo? And when you're engaged one-on-one like that, well, it's a different kettle of fish. That's why, a lot of workshops I run, I like to do one-on-one workshops, because I know the customer gets the full benefit. They can take it all in because it's just me and them. So camera clubs are very, very similar, where they have, themes normally each month. Some camera clubs are bi-monthly, so every couple of months. I know the Ballerine Camera Club here is monthly, and they meet, I think it's the first Monday of the month locally. I'll put a link to their camera club. I'll put a link to the Ballerine Camera Club here. They'll love this. They're getting a massive shout out here.
In that case, I'll give the Southern Tasmanian Photography Society one as well.
Perfect.
If you got to plug yours, I'll plug mine.
Absolutely. We'll put a link in description for you. Absolutely. If you're thinking of joining a camera club, go and have a look. They're not monsters. They're not going to bite your head off. In fact, most of them want new members. And I think mine is like $50 a year. Yeah,
like this one, the Southern Tasmanian one is $25 a year, I think it is. I think they're a great thing. Like I said, over the years, I think they've sort of got not a bum rap, but like there's been a lot of issues in some camera clubs with, especially with the competitions. And this is something I have a lot of my customers generally have, all of them are joined to some sort of camera club down here or elsewhere. And the common story is like, I never win anything at the awards, or, everyone's really harsh critics and stuff like that. And I try and tell people that, that's a 5% thing of the whole club, or what the club will give you. Like you said, the social outing, the learning, the enjoyment, the whole kind of stuff like that is something that people should really cherish in this sort of day and age. So I reckon definitely join one if you can, or at least go and research one, or most of them have Facebook accounts or websites or something like that. Go check what you've got around you, and go support your local photography community. And even if you don't go too often, $50 a year is not much to support a local camera club.
No, that's right. Even just to get the newsletter, or and see what's coming up at the club, and whether you might want to enter certain competitions that are in your wheelhouse, that sort of stuff. So it sounds like we're in a heated agreements here. We think camera clubs are a good thing.
Absolutely.
Nice. Gear talk. We thought we'd be a little bit broad with gear talk tonight, because we do hopefully attract a few first-time listeners and a few first-time landscape photographers. So if you're one of those, welcome aboard.
If you're not one of those, stay listening. You'll still learn something.
Absolutely. I get asked a hell of a lot in my shop by normally parents who are looking to get, like a child has shown, or their son or daughter has shown an interest in photography, in particular landscape. And the question I get asked a lot is, what gear do they need? What camera should I buy them? My general off-the-cuff answer is any camera. I generally start, and it's a bit sucky to have to start with a budget. That's normally what I do. It's like, well, do we have a budget in mind? And once I work out what the budget is, I then can choose a camera that'll suit that budget, but also something that'll help that child to encourage that child to take up landscape photography. So you don't want to buy them an absolute potato that's 15 years old and going to break down. You want something half decent. So Cam, where would you start if you were starting out today? Where would you start?
What's my budget?
$1,000.
$1,000?
Yeah. Jesus. I'm going to have a coughing fit. Excuse me.
Jesus.
Sorry, listeners. I might have. If I was a good editor, I would have just,
we know you're not
muted that out.
$1,000 for a start out kit. You know what? I'm going to go a little bit left field.
I like it.
So if I was starting out landscape shooting now and I had $1,000 for it, I would most likely go online. I'll be looking secondhand, because I wouldn't bother buying new. And what I'd be doing is looking for something like one of these little Fujis, the little fixed lens Fujis, or something like a bit of a rangefindery thing that has, maybe 20 megapixel APS-C sensor, but has manual overrides and oversettings.
Yes.
Whether or not it has a zoom on it or a fixed lens or not, but I'd be going something small. I wouldn't probably go and buy the big SLR style thing with multiple lenses. If I was starting again or wanting to get into it now, that's where I'd start, because I think they're great little cameras. The quality in them is really, really, really good. And you can do everything you can out of the big camera in those little cameras. And I think that'd be a great way, without breaking the bank, to say, hey, I've got this little camera. Hey, I'm getting some really nice shots out of that. And like you said, it might be that stepping stone to say, look, okay, I've spent $1,000 on this little smaller one with full override of manual stuff. Maybe I'll go and buy, a new Sony or Olympus or Canon or Nikon or Leica or Fuji or Panasonic, whatever it might be. So I'd be going there. I'd be actually starting, which is probably way off where you wanted me to go, but I'd be starting.
Not at all. I'm
I'd be starting
with
there.
Your opinion?
Yeah, I'd be starting there, purely because I think for that kind of money, I reckon that's a nice way to start out without having to get an old technology sort of camera.
I'm going to be a lot broader than that. And I'm going to say buy a camera, not a phone.
Oh, yes.
And the reason I say that is because you're going to want a camera that has manual control dial on the top. So where you can access menu settings and access the different modes of that camera quickly, and learning about control dials and also dials that change aperture and shutter speed and stuff like that.
Yes, I think that's essential. Yeah,
absolutely essential. So find a manual camera that you can change settings on.
Yeah.
It will help your landscape photography or your photography in general in absolute leaps and bounds. You'll come along really quickly if you can start adjusting aperture and shutter speed yourself, or indeed adjusting both and shooting in full manual as well. You will learn the benefits of that really quickly if you've got it at your disposal. Now,
so let me pull you up on that 1 second there.
If
we go back to episode 17, you bought a phone instead of a camera.
That's right.
So
why did I do that?
Because you're an idiot.
No, I did that because I've prior to that had 30 plus years of experience with knowing what control mode dials do and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I bought the iPhone 13, I think it was at that point.
Maybe,
whatever it was.
Yes.
And I was literally umming and ahhing about changing all my gear. And then I had a realization, and that was I've got everything I need to take landscape photos. I don't need to get the latest Sony A7, whatever number they're up to now.
A7 45. Yep.
That's right. And, and the reason I went and got myself a better phone was for pure convenience that, that's the thing that stays with me all the time. I can keep that in my pocket at all times. So I want a phone that is the best camera on the market at the time. And at that point, it was the iPhone 13 Pro. That's probably been superseded now. I'm sure it has been. I still use it a lot. But getting back to our topic, and that is about, I reckon, 10 years ago, we had an absolute plethora of awesome cameras got released that were all aimed at entry level. Nikon with their D5300, I think it was, or 5200. Canon, even with their entry-level Canon, they went through the 700D series.
Yes.
Mate, those cameras stand up today brilliantly, and you can buy them on eBay for a bag of minties. Like you can get a 700D, I'm sure, body only for $150, maybe even less.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely incredible cameras. The problem with today's marketplace is they have to keep selling the bloody things. So they'll put out some, it's like, they'll put out one with more megapixels. We all know the megapixel race is over. Well, they'll put out one with more areas of autofocus. Well, we've done that. Okay. Now ours will shoot 60 frames a second, for God's sake. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But we hit a sweet spot, I reckon, about 10 years ago, around 2010 to 2013, 2014, where the cameras that were coming out then were jaw-droppingly good and really affordable. And now they're just laying around everywhere. So
they're laying around on eBay.
So did you look up a 700D?
Yeah, I looked up a 700D with an 18 to 55 in excellent mint condition.
$250?
Oh, to tell you what, you're almost spot on. 297, and there is one for 250 with no lens.
There you go. And trust me, the 700D, I'm just picking one brand. Canon. The 700D is an amazing little camera, so that's a great place to start. And
the Nikon 5300, $500-$700 with the lens.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the equivalent sort of camera. So There's heaps out there, and they are sitting in drawers because what happened was people back then, phones were still no good with their cameras, right?
No, yeah.
Back then, it was still all about buying the SLR camera or the high-end compact camera. And I remember that, I reckon it was the Christmas of 2011 and 2012 when I worked at Camera House, we sold thousands of SLRs. And the twin lens kits were popular, and the triple lens kit and the tripod and everything that came with it and the carry case. They were awesome. And I'm telling you, folks, they are sitting in drawers with dead batteries, and they're just going to be landfill. So do the planet a favor as well. Buy yourself a secondhand one of these cameras and get out there.
I can do you one. I can do you one better. I've got a brand new Olympus EM1X.
Yes, as I have.
I'll do you one too, which I'm looking to sell. So if anyone's interested in a brand new, it's got literally 3 frames on it. EM1X 20.4 megapixel camera.
Yeah,
lovely camera. We'll hit Brendan and I up, and how much are you selling yours for?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I might end up giving it away on the channel in a couple of years' time.
Oh, there's an idea. That's a $1,500, $2,000 camera giveaway.
Well, that's right.
If we
$5,000 when it came out.
If we reach 1,000 subs on YouTube before the end of the year, and I haven't sold the camera, we'll give it to a viewer. What do you reckon?
Okay,
I'm happy to sacrifice that.
You heard it here, folks.
I say some stupid shit things and regret them
later.
Said
that his camera.
No.
The way we're going, that's it's a chance. It's an outside chance, but anyway. So yeah, look. In a nutshell, what do you need to get into landscape photography? You just need a half decent camera with manual control. I think that's what we both hit on. Deercam. Episode 73. Deercam.
Yeah.
Dear lads.
This has become the Dear Everyone show,
and it's funny because this and I didn't even look ahead, but this goes back to exactly what we we're just talking about. I've got way too much camera gear and want to offload it. Where do you guys sell your secondhand gear? Ian didn't tell us where he was from, but thanks, Ian.
We sell it on here. Who wants to buy an EM1X?
That's right, exactly.
How much you have way too much gear? Well, sorry to disappoint you, Ian, but I've still got too much gear.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't offload it too much. But if I was going to offload it, I've sold stuff on Gumtree before. That's not too bad. You get a few tire kickers. eBay is okay, but they take lots of fees.
eBay fees are ludicrous now.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
What
and if you want to, you can also trade in. So if you've got a whole heap of old gear, but you're looking to get some new gear, you can trade in. You won't get the same sort of price as private sale, but they're the 3 things I would do. Either chuck it on Gumtree and put up with the tire kickers, or put it on eBay and put up with the fees, or trade it in and put up with being bent over.
Completely ripped off.
But or give it to your local camera club, but donate it.
Now that's what I was going to say.
I knew you were going down
there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can go to your camera club, and quite often camera clubs in their newsletter will let you advertise your stuff, and chances are there's going to be a member chasing the lens or the body that you've got. I'll tell you another.
No one's chasing the body I've got.
This is true. I'll tell you another ripping place, and that's Facebook Marketplace. Underrated. No fees whatsoever. Yes. And generally speaking, you'll find you have quick interaction with people, and there's no time limit to sell it like eBay. Like, you have a 7-day auction or whatever it is on eBay and all that sort of garbage. Facebook Marketplace, there will be 58 million cameras for sale right now. I'm sure of it.
There's a lot of EOS 700Ds.
There you go. See.
What about
Ian? And the question was, where do you guys sell your secondhand gear? Cam said he doesn't really sell too much secondhand gear. I'm very fortunate in that I have my own retail outlet, so quite often my old gear will end up on a shelf in there, and I'll sell it like that. So.
Nice.
Facebook Marketplace though is where I would get rid of my stuff.
Cool. Good stuff.
Any pricing on 700Ds on Facebook Marketplace?
About the same as eBay. Yeah. Minus the fees.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do like about the secondhand gear, just while I've been looking at Marketplace, there's a lens that I inquired about locally in Hobart. A lens I was really keen to get for a camera of mine. I won't say what brand it is because that'll give it away. And I emailed this person and said, hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars. And they told me to go forth and multiply in no uncertain terms.
Nice.
It's now being still listed for less than that. So they haven't been able to sell it. And now they're selling it for less. So
Now go on and off from half that.
Well, I am tempted to go and say, well, who's
It's
laughing
only
now?
it's right. It's only getting lower.
It is.
Thank you, one and all, who have visited dsps.com.au, the Down South Photo Show website, which is now flying along. In
Is it still
particular,
up?
thank you. I don't know. You put it up there. Hopefully, it's still there.
Yeah.
Our beer donators for the week. They're coming in. We would like to thank Mel, Anne B, Andrew, and Anne M for hitting us up with a beer donation. Thank you so much. The beer donations are awesome. It not only quenches our thirst, it also pays for the small costs of running our setup. So websites, YouTube, podcasting, all that sort of stuff.
It's totally beer.
But mostly it's beer. So thank you so much for those people who have given us beer donations.
And if you'd like to buy us a beer, all you got to do is go to the website. Yeah. If you want to buy a beer, just go to www.dsps. I better put an extra W in there, dsps.com.au. There is a section that says buy us a beer.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be much. It could be $5. That'll give me a beer and Brendan can watch. It's weird. Or you can buy us $10 and we can both watch. I don't know.
We could share a beer.
We could share a beer.
Yeah, we could do that.
So yeah, it's good. And what we're doing as well for those guys listening who don't watch the show, if you do go on to www.dsps.com.au, we'll have the latest image from either one of us on there each week, so you can actually have a quick look at the photo that we've put up. So instead of us just crapping on in your ear and you go, I can't be bothered, you can now be bothered and get on there and have a look. That's and right, everyone has internet at work, and you're not doing anything at work, so just jump on and buy us a beer.
Yes, and there are less syllables in World Wide Web than there are in www. What's coming up for you, Cam?
That's a weird thing to say. What's coming up for me? So a bit of a conundrum, but I've got a tour starting on Saturday, and we're meant to be flying into the Southwest that we do as part of this World Heritage Tour. This is the first one. And I got a call today from the company that flies us in saying, we've had to do some unexpected maintenance on our planes. Ooh. No planes are flying for the next week. Sorry, we can't take you there. I'm like, right, well, that's a bit unfair. So we have to shuffle that around a bit, the itinerary. I've told the customers and they're being wonderful about it. So yeah, I'll be next week for the podcast. I might have to check in from somewhere else to do it.
I like the sound of that.
And what about you? What have you got going on?
That's a very good question. A lot going on because I have closed down my Torquay store. So I am in the process of relocating everything out of the Torquay store to the Ocean Grove store and revamping that. That's going to be a lot of work, but that's okay. That's all. Yeah. I'll get to the other side of it and go, that wasn't that much work at all. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into that because the Ocean Grove site is brilliant. I love the location, but the shop's a bit tired. I literally... When I relocated the Ocean Grove store 8 months ago, whenever it was, I literally just took everything out of one shop and plonked it in a new one and made it work. Yeah. I had to do it quickly because my lease was up. But now I've got to a point where I know how the space is going to work and function. And so I'm looking forward to putting in a couple of new counters and things like that, and moving printers and all that sort of fun stuff. So speaking of, I do have a large format printer for sale. This
has become the down
What's
south
going on?
This
has become eBay. Forget I said that. Don't worry
about it. Yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds like you're nice and busy as well.
That's very, very busy. And, my other love in this world, AFL football, is back this weekend. So I'll be off to the mighty MCG on Saturday night. So
Saturday night. It starts tomorrow night, doesn't it? The rounds?
It does. It's blockbuster opening round. So very excited by all that as well. Yeah. Did we mention the Murray Mallee workshop? I think we did.
We did touch on it. It's still spots available, October 12th. Till whatever it is, 4 days and 3 nights. Full price and details on the website.
I'm super excited about that, given I've whet my appetite in this location. So I'm looking forward to getting out on that one.
We're still a few months before we're going. We've got some places still left. It's fully inclusive. So accommodation, food, meals, comedy, beer is not included. You name it, it's there. Unlike other podcasts around Australia, we actually do something with our guests and show appreciation and take you out to these amazing spots. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're liking and making a review and subscribing and all that kind of stuff. That
can't wait to see you on a workshop, everyone. I think that's it. I think that's time. I think that's the podcast for this week, Cam.
I think it is. I don't think we've got anything else to say.
Very good.
Which would be unusual for me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Down South Photo Show. We will see you. It was 73, this one, wasn't it? Yes.
74. Well, we're at 26 to go.
Wow.
Where does that take us? 26 weeks? What's that? Half a year? That's 6 months.
Mm.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It might be right when we run the Melly Murray workshop. Could be also episode 100 of the DSPS.
You know what it's going to be? It's going to be grand final week.
Yeah, well, I won't be on.
Episode
Thanks,
100, where's Brendan? He's gone.
That's right, yeah. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you next week. Cheers.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.